You don't talk about it much, but there's a quiet exhaustion you carry. Not the kind sleep fixes, the kind that comes from enduring again and again. While everyone assumes you're just strong, here's the strange part. What nearly broke you also rewired you. Most people think going through too much either destroys you or magically turns you into a superhero. Both are wrong, because the real impact is invisible. It changes how you perceive people, how you process emotions, how you respond when life collapses. And today, we're not talking about motivation, or toxic positivity, or empty affirmations. We're talking about the rare kind of strength that develops only after extended adversity. The kind Carl Jung hinted at when he wrote about the shadow in man and his symbols. The deeper layer of psyche that isn't visible until you endure deeply. When you experience prolonged emotional stress, loss, instability, betrayal, pressure, your nervous system adapts. This is stress-induced neuroplasticity, the same concept Daniel Kahneman explored in Thinking, Fast and Slow, where the brain changes how it processes risk, intuition, and pattern recognition. Your brain becomes efficient at reading environments, sensing emotional shifts, detecting danger before it's spoken, not because you wanted to, but because you had to. You didn't become strong because you suffered. You became strong because your mind learned how to survive intelligently. And here's the part most people don't understand. Strength doesn't always look confident. It doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks quiet. If you've been through too much, you develop strength society doesn't reward, but real life depends on. The first rare strength is emotional precision. You notice things others miss. Changes in tone, shifts in energy, unspoken tension. Not because you're overthinking, but because your nervous system learned pattern recognition. Your brain becomes efficient at reading environments, sensing emotional shifts, detecting danger before it's spoken, not because you wanted to, but because you had to. You didn't become strong because you suffered. You became strong because your mind learned how to survive intelligently. And here's the part most people don't understand. Strength doesn't always look confident. It doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks quiet. If you've been through too much, you develop strength society doesn't reward, but real life depends on. The first rare strength is emotional precision. You notice things others miss. Changes in tone, shifts in energy, unspoken tension. Not because you're overthinking, but because your nervous system learned pattern recognition. This is the same emotional acuity Daniel Goleman called emotional intelligence in his book Emotional Intelligence, the skill many people never fully develop. That's not sensitivity. That's intelligence forged under pressure. The second rare strength is calm in real chaos. When things fall apart, people panic. You don't. Your attention narrows, your breathing steadies, and your instincts sharpen. Psychologists call this adaptive stress tolerance, the kind Viktor Frankl described in Man's Search for Meaning, where meaning and focus arise not despite suffering, but through it. What overwhelms others activates you. And the third strength is deep discernment. You don't trust easily, but when you do, it's intentional. You can tell the difference between charm and character, words and patterns, apologies and real accountability. That's not bitterness. That's wisdom earned. This is the nuance Abraham Maslow pointed toward with his concept of self-actualization in motivation and personality. Not blind optimism, but clarity born from experience. But here's where things get tricky. Because survival strengths, if left unconscious, turn into hypervigilance, emotional distance, and constant self-protection. So the question isn't whether you're strong. It's whether you're still living in survival mode. And here's how you shift that. First, name your strengths without romanticizing pain. Say this clearly. What I gained does not justify what I endured. You keep the strength. You release the story that suffering was necessary. Second, practice cognitive reframing. When you find yourself scanning for danger, ask, what information is my body trying to give me? This idea draws from Aaron Beck's work in cognitive therapy and the emotional disorders, where inner dialogue becomes the key to emotional regulation. Choose response over reaction. This is how hypervigilance becomes intuition. And third, practice safe expansion. Your system learned to contract to survive. Now it needs evidence that softness is safe. Choose environments, people, routines, creative spaces, where your guard can lower without punishment. That's how resilience transforms into peace. Here's the truth most people never tell you. People who've been through too much aren't broken. They're over-adapted. Your work now isn't to become stronger. It's to become gentler, without losing your edge. And if this resonated with you, the next thing you need to understand is why emotionally strong people often feel misunderstood, and how to stop shrinking to make others comfortable. And that journey begins with ideas from Irvin Yalom's existential psychotherapy, where meaning emerges not by avoiding suffering, but by facing it with curiosity and acceptance. That's where we go next.